drift on a sailboat. My love is the sea. Yours is the horizon, constant and steady. You said my limbs too tired to flow, lifting my lonesome sails. The tide is out, the moon is high, we're sailing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Morning Coffee with your host, Rick Alexander. I wanted to talk to you a little bit this morning about what's going on in my life as it sort of pertains to this show. I know that you've probably noticed a wild variance in sound quality, and it's because I'm sort of living on the road right now, kind of doing the gypsy thing. Obviously, just having got out of the military, there's all of these sort of adventures that I'm going on, including going to Australia to spend all of next month in Australia writing my newest book. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I do recognize the variance in sound quality, and I am working on a solution. I'm trying to figure out how to, just make this thing work on the road. And then another thing, just to know about Lionheart Radio, of course we do the one interview style Lionheart Radio per week, and then we do about 3 morning coffees depending, and then we do the Lionheart Radio sideshow with George. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because going into the new year, my goal is after the month of December, I will no longer do any interviews on Skype. So a lot of our Lionheart Radio interviews are on Skype, and a lot of that has been because I've been in the military and I've not been able to travel to see all of the guests that maybe I would want to be. But I'm really making it a priority to clean up sound quality and to make sure we put out a really good show. I think the message deserves good quality. And so, starting basically next year, we're going to do only in-person shows. Now, what that might mean for this show is a lot more morning coffees are probably going to happen, because if I don't get to a place where we have the guest that we're looking for, then, we'll just, I'll air more morning coffees, and then that'll be that. So all of the shows will continue to exist, but it's just sort of how to make it all work with the lifestyle. So that's just something to think about and expect as we move forward. And another thing that I'm going to be working on, I've been working on the media calendar for the rest of the year, and we're going to do, I think either next week or the week after, we're going to do some themed weeks. So all of the morning coffees for that week will have a certain theme. It'll be the exact same format, so nothing really is going to change there, but there'll be a little bit more direction probably in the morning coffees going forward. So super stoked on that as well. And as always, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen, give us a rating, and share it with your friends and followers. So one of the things that I think is really interesting that I've noticed, I guess it's from starting the show, from having Lionheart Radio, from maybe some of the coaching stuff I do, but I've gotten to work with a lot of people that are quote unquote influencers, specifically, in the social media space. A lot of people with very big followings who are doing some cool things. And, I'll say some of them, there's some real shit personalities out there, but there's also some really, really great people. And so for today's show, I wanted to talk about some of the messaging that you'll get from a lot of the influencers. And, I will tell you, this exact idea was something I was knocking around with my buddy Chris, maybe 150 miles into the last run. So it's wild where your mind will go on these really long runs. But this was an idea that he had talked about with me, and we kind of shot back and forth on it. But it's this idea that we need to stress test our ethos. I talked yesterday about the importance of sort of coming up with a belief system about, this is how people act, and this is how people act within the world. And I always talk about coherence on here, how we always have this desire to make sense of the world. Well, one of the things I really, really think is you should come up with these ethos that you have for yourself, these sort of maxims, if you will, just things that you believe to be true about hard work and about how to live your life in a good way, in a right way for you, so it's authentic. But then you have to test those ethos. So if you hear something, maybe I say something, you listen to the show that might be intriguing, well, that's great. Hopefully you learn something. But if you really want to know whether that should be part of your life, if you want to know how to apply it, you've got to apply it, and then you've got to test that thing. Because what I've started to notice, and it's so easy to repost on Instagram, that, sometimes it can be good, but sometimes we get in this cycle where all we're doing is just reposting other people's thoughts And so I've noticed one of the things that I really dislike about the motivation space and the influencer space is that there are so many unoriginal ideas out there. So for example, if I give you advice like all failure should be reframed as learning, but I've actually never learned anything from my failures. I don't actually take the time to sit and think about that. I'm the kind of person that fails, turns inward, gets mad at myself, and sort of shies away and doesn't. If I don't live by the things that I'm saying, then they might actually not work, right? They might be bad advice, and that's a real issue, because then when you get into the exact same situation, you now have shitty advice. And there's a lot of that gets propagated, especially within the fitness and the self-improvement space. If you are somebody that is like putting something out into the world for other people, which we all are, right? Because we all have followings, so to some degree. There's always people that respect what we're doing. And honestly, it's usually more people than we even imagine that are actually following us and sort of counting on the things that we say and like gaining something from them. But if you hear things from other people and then you put them out as wisdom and gossip, and you've never stress tested them in your own life, you could not be doing any more of a disservice to the people around you. And I think one of the things that really gets me about the motivational space and the influencer space, like I was saying, is I see a lot of that at the top. I see a lot of people that are not really doing shit other than taking pictures of themselves. And so then when they put out these captions or these posts or these whatever, it's like bad guidance. It's like bad wisdom, because they don't actually know. They've never been in the arena long enough to really test the things that they say. So like if I ever give advice about endurance or about life or about anything really, it's because I've forged that advice in the fucking arena. Like I have literally bled and sweat. And that was, that's one of the things I was talking to somebody about my book, Burn Your Couch. It's like, there's lessons in here that maybe some people have heard before, but I promise you, if you get them from me, it's because I have tested them in the most dire of circumstances imaginable. I've had my back against the wall. And that's what I want for you. Like as you look to form your kind of thoughts about what you're going to do going forward and who you're going to be in the world, don't be afraid to stress test your ideas. And then furthermore, like when you're putting stuff out there, ask yourself if you've actually tested this idea, if you actually believe it. Because a lot of times we really get in the habit of, I think, just recycling other people's ideas because it sounds good. But the reality is, if we're going to be giving out advice, if we're going to be helping each other out, which we all should be, we got to be smart about it. We got to make sure that we're doing the right thing by other people. And so whatever your ethos are, whatever you believe, whatever you value, whatever you are, whatever it is, you've got to stress test that idea. You've got to apply it to your life, and then you've got to figure out if you've actually gained anything beneficial from it. Because in my opinion, and that's where the real success is going to lie, and that's where other people are going to find success as well. So don't be afraid to stress test your ideas. And furthermore, when you're hearing stuff or reading stuff about people that are quote unquote bigger or that have, made it, or, whatever, use whatever kind of bullshit metric of success you want, when you look at those people, and, I just think that you should really think about what they're putting out. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, it's not advice that would actually hold true when it was put to the test. And, a lot of times that's why I look to old wisdom. Like you'll hear me on the show, I'll talk about, biblical stories, or I'll talk about old philosophers, or I'll talk about, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is one I go back to all the time, talking about the Stoics, because these are people that tested their ideas. These are psychological concepts that have stood the test of time. This is like old wisdom. And so I would just say, when it comes to applying things to your life, make sure it's got that kind of staying power. Make sure you actually believe the shit you put out there. I think that's real important. I think a lot of people screw that up. But look, today's a new day. Tomorrow's a new day. Another chance to get it right. I'll talk to you guys later on Morning Coffee.